You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the network to kick off yet another brand spanking week of new content here, new fun, new adventures here on the old Options audio side. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THE OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you are loving and mainlining and sucking down the bandwidth. Don't worry, there's more where that came from. So have at it out there. Hope you're having fun. If you like what you're hearing, throw a rating, a star, a comment. All of that stuff does help. You know the deal by now. I've been doing this for a long time. This January marks 17 years. Bonkers to say that out loud, but that is indeed the truth. Way before the iPhone was a gleam in Steve Jobs' eye, we were doing this whole options podcast thing. So if you like what you hear, throw a rating, a star, a comment. Again, we've been doing it for a long time, but the new stuff does help, does get favored by the algorithms. So if you feel like, oh, they've been doing it forever, they don't need it, the more the merrier. It all does help at the end of the day. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to join us for some great pro Q&As, got some awesome stuff coming up this week. We got, of course, Options Oddities. We got live streams for this, everything else we're cooking. By the way, I should welcome in all the new folks who've been joining us here at the start of the year. You joined a fun partay out there, including that panel should be hitting hopefully soon once the editors get it all prettied up for you over there. So you too can save on the ticket to Stack as well as flying to Chicago and everything else. You're saving thousands of bucks just by checking out, I should say, the pro and getting that panel in your ear holes for free. Not a bad deal over there. And, you know, I am joined on the Monday show by the Unklest of Mike's, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW, as well as by a little bit of a switcheroo by the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. I introduce them now, listeners, because it is time to kick off our broadcast week for the network in high style. We like to have a little bit of fun at the top of the show. So if you're not into the fun, don't worry, just skip ahead. We'll be done in a couple of minutes. But last couple of years, we've been doing 80s wrestling trivia. But as you'll recall, it was all started with more of kind of an 80s TV and movie theme game that we started. Guess that theme out there. So we thought, given the fact that the Rock Lobster will be on the Monday show for a little bit, it doesn't make sense to keep doing the wrestling. Plus, we have hit on all the 80s wrestlers multiple times. So we thought we'd go back and do more of a kind of a general 80s trivia type thing. And it seemed to make sense to kick things off the way we started it all way back in the day by guessing a little bit of 80s theme. While I get this queued up, listeners, you can think about this one. This one definitely speaks to the heart of my 80s fandom. Also timely and appropriate because it's coming back in a couple of days. So I'll just leave that. No more hints out here as I cue this up. Can you guess this 80s TV show via its theme song? Here we go. got a buzz. We've got a buzz from the Rocking. I did not expect him to be the first one to buzz, but the Rock Lobster buzzing in first. All right, Mr. Rock Lobster, what you got?
Yeah, no, he got me.
What show is that from, Mr. Rock Lobster?
MacGyver?
Oh.
Oh! No, sir.
I think you can tell from our guesses the answer is no, sir. I had to go deep. I had to find the instrumental version because if I played the regular version, they say what it is in the first 2 seconds. So I had to dig a little bit deeper. Maybe that threw you off. MacGyver, a fine 80s show, but not the show we're looking for. Mr. Uncle Mike, set the man straight. What are we looking for?
He-Man.
Yes.
And the Masters of the Universe.
Of course you know.
Yeah.
Of course you know I'm kicking it off with He-Man, only the greatest 80s property of all time. Only maybe my studio here is festooned with various He-Man nostalgia from over the years. And yes, that show is coming back this week on Netflix, as good or bad as that might be, the whole Kevin Smith version. That's a conversation for another day. Most people did not like it. But that said, it's very timely. So yeah, you're in the right decade, Mr. Rock Lobster. We just got to dial you in a little further. But at least you're there. At least you're playing. And you buzzed in first.
I'm like, I could swear that. The problem is all those freaking 80s theme songs sound the same.
Yeah,
They're all probably written by the same guy.
Well, if I play the actual one, they just go He-Man in like the first 5 seconds. And
the Masters of the Universe.
So that kind of gives it away. So I had to find an orchestral version, which I could maybe forgive. Sounds a little bit closer to MacGyver. Sure, I'll allow that. But Uncle Mike, first points on the board, first blood to our reigning champion. Listeners, did you know that one? Of course you knew. It's me. Of course you know I'm going He-Man first. As we keep on going right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
Welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show we break down what the heck is trading out there, listeners. And if you've been watching Mattel, that Barbie movie did pretty well for them. Guess what other property they own? Oh yeah, Masters of the Universe. I guess we're going to be getting a Motu movie sometime soon. In fact, they had spent a bunch of money on one right before Barbie, then they kind of shelved it. I'm guessing that movie's coming back out now. So yes, all things Mattel going to be coming up, including probably a little bit of He-Man goodness out there. Speaking of some goodness, if you're a bull out there, man, I know Uncle Mike's champing at the bit, so I'll have to let him get to it in a second. His famous saying, but that said, listeners, yeah, we are flirting about at new all-time highs out there in S&P land. S&P, all the major indices in the green today. S&P up about 0.25%. The Dow up about 0.33%. And the old NASDAQ up about 0.33%. Let's go out to our friends, small caps. Let's see how they're hanging their hat out there today as well. Up about 1.6%. So yeah, small caps feeling their oats out there today. My goodness, small caps, I think, are going to be the story of the year out there. They're just bonkers. They just do their own thing every given day. S&P's up maybe a quarter, maybe a half. Russell 2000 down 2%. All kinds of craziness. Today they happen to be up, but up about 3x what everything else is up. So yeah, it's one of those days out there, listen. That means all of our vol friends a little bit lighter than they were this time last show. VIX at about 13.5 when we kicked off the show. That's down about exactly a point from where it was on Thursday. VVIX at an 80, down about 8 points, so they continue to crush the vol of vol. VXX 14.75, down a full point. I got a feeling the Rock Lobster's got a little bit of fun to talk about in VXX. We'll get there in a second. UVXY 770, down 0.75 point. So they're coming for UVX. We're going to have to reverse split that one again pretty soon, too. SVIX 39.25, not quite at new all-time highs, but flirting with them again. That's up 2.25 from our show on Thursday. I think it's still about exactly a point. I think it was right around 40.30 was the all-time high. So 39.25, 1.05 points below it. But intriguing stuff out there for SVIX. If we continue to erode and vol, we could certainly hit that level again. And our old friend UVIX at a 12 even when we kicked off the show, down 1.75 points. So man, we were just talking about a 15 handle in VIX last week, close to that level in UVIX, and now, at least for the time being, all of that juice is gone. But the Uncleist of Mikes, you are our winner today, so we'll start with you. If you have any enduring thoughts on the fantastic show that was He-Man, the Master of the Universe, have at it. And then B, I know you're dying to get to it, your world-famous saying. You haven't said it in a while, so what you got for us, sir?
Well, let's start this off right. Never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than right now. Does that mean that I'm recommending selling? Absolutely not. But we are at new all-time highs. And so mathematically, always be mindful of that and have the understanding that we are there, and there's never been a better time to sell in the history of the entire stock market. So with that being said, let's revisit He-Man for a little bit. He-Man was actually, he was quite the inspiration for me in my younger days, in that I went on to get into powerlifting. Besides football, I was also a power lifter, and I had a world record in the squat at one point. I believe it's still an American record in the teenage 308-pound class, but not sure if it still is anymore. But nonetheless, it actually is something that was very near and dear to my heart, is being strong, and it's something that I always wanted to do as a football player, and it's something that I still strength train to this day, not near what I did back in the day. The old saying, the older I get, the better I was with that. But yeah, I loved He-Man. I would always rush home from school or to the babysitters or wherever I was going. I wanted to see what that was. It was always on, I believe, at 3:30. We'd get out of school at 2:30, go home, have a snack, maybe do a little bit of homework and watch He-Man. And man, life was really good when you think about it in the early 80s.
Those were good times, sir. Those were good times. By the way, I love that you had a 308-pound weight class. What an obscure weight class.
Well, it's done by kilos, and I believe it's the 125-pound kilos. So that's how.
Okay. All right.
That's why they set it up that way, because it goes 275 and then 308. So. All right. No, maybe no. 125 is the 275 class. So I don't know, but whatever it is, they always go. It would be 242, 275, 308, and then super heavyweight, which is unlimited weight. Your unlimited weight class. So
just a notch below unlimited. That's Uncle Mike in a nutshell.
Pretty much. So that was it. So, but yeah, I loved E-Man. And so this is how mean my older brother was to me. He would actually do this because he was 10 years older than me. So he was a punk high school kid at the time. And I still give him a hard time about this to this day. What he would do to me to almost put me in tears as a first grader, he would walk around saying, "Hail, Skeletor." And I just couldn't handle that. That would just bother me. And that, he'd see the show. He'd say that was so wrong how people called Evil Lynn. He said her real name is Evelyn, and He-Man was just being mean to her. And it was just, I had a really mean older brother, and I give him a hard time about that to this day.
Weirdly enough, that's what they did in the new Netflix show. They turned her name to Evelyn. So there.
No way.
Yes, they did. So your brother was ahead of the curve. Oh my gosh! In that one regard.
So, that is he would the people do the. Oh, never mind. Now it's getting too traumatic for me right now, just thinking about the whole thing. But nonetheless, lots of love for He-Man, Eternia, and all of them. And if anyone ever wants to see something extremely entertaining and very good, YouTube search Skeletor's Greatest Insults. It's a 2-minute greatest hits on Skeletor. It is worth your while. I would highly recommend it for any He-Man fans out there. That's for sure.
I would have to check that out, sir. In addition to all things good and powerlifting and He-Man, which I could do the whole show on that, quite frankly. But what's catching your eye out there in this super heavyweight market, sir?
No doubt about it. I mean, so the concern of all-time highs is that you never know. It's kind of uncharted. Well, it's totally uncharted waters because of the fact that you don't know where we're going at this stage. There's no support, no resistance, or anything like that. So that's always a concern along those lines. But the exciting part is that 4,800 can become 5,500 because there's no ceiling on this market at this stage because we're at new all-time highs. And that's the exciting part about this. Some other things that are catching my eye at this point, we're getting a little bit of relief in the bond world in that we do have some buyers in there. Of course, the only reason we have all-time highs or that the market's allowing it is because Apple's allowing it. Apple is up a little over 1% on the day. So we do have that to factor into it. In terms of the sectors, we do have industrials are the ones that are leading the way in this market today. It's not technology. The other thing that is of interest right now, though, is that small caps, IWM, that's up 1.5% on the day, as compared to the S&P that's only up 0.2%. So a lot of people are saying that 2024 could be the year of the small caps. Today is definitely making a big case for that because of what's happening on there. In terms of some other things that are catching my eye, I am happy to see that after all the there's more bad press about Disney this last week or so, just in terms of downgrades, and Disney's up 1.5% on the day today, so that's something that's of note to me. Overall, we have buyers in Apple, but we don't necessarily have an all-around tech rally, if you will. So interesting to say the least, and we're going to see how the rest of this day plays out.
We shall indeed. Our chat's loving it. They're all saying He-Man was the best. Yes, I knew our chat was full of like-minded and deeply intelligent and savvy individuals, and that is yet more proof of that. So now let's see if the Rock Lobster can fall into that category. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, I know you were 42 years old when the cartoon originally aired and the action figures came out, so maybe it wasn't your cup of tea. But if you have any enduring memories of the most powerful man in the universe, have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye out there in today's markets, these new all-time highs? And then a little birdie tells me you got a little bit of VXX skullduggery up your sleeve, sir. What you up to?
VXX skullduggery. I'm kind of the mind here with Mr. TOSAW on, since there ain't no top, there ain't no top. And just watching some of the earnings results, so that SMCI, I remember we talked about it last week. Okay, so yeah, that's a microchip maker. Apparently you can make a lot of money making all these new snazzy new GPUs or whatever they do. All I know is it was a $300 chip stock up $100. Now, even back in the day, I guess when Qualcomm, you look at all these crazy tech rallies and AI. I've got friends that are pretty smart, certainly smarter than me, and they are like, this AI thing is going to be so enormous, bigger than the internet type stuff. Again, don't know what that means, but the internet created all kinds of opportunities that nobody ever even, social media, what the heck was that, right? So one of many things spawned by the internet. So that kind of upside historically leads to parabolic market returns. Also, I think there's probably a fair amount of people that sat out 2023. Like 2022, like their bonds sucked, their stocks sucked, everything sucked. Ukraine sucked. And, they either sold or they didn't add or whatever they did. And now they're like, okay, the Qs are up 40% and I missed out from the lows, that is. So this is kind of how these crazy bull markets started. I mean, and that's, but you need the story. You need a great, I've been watching the market since 1989, I guess, or 1987 when I was in college. And I had a really good professor who was telling us about the crash, and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Sounds like a good way just to stay at home and not have to work very hard to make money. So I was in. Anyway, that's another story. But as far as upside, like you need a story for upside. And this AI story, it is pretty sweet as far as upside goes. So I'm with Mike. Like, why do we have all-time highs? Because people think that we have a huge untapped growth engine again. So again, I'm not as long tech as I used to be. Sadly, I bought a lot more oil stocks. So 2023 was an okay year. It was not as good as I wanted it to be. I'm still buying more oil stocks, and gas for that matter. And I did get rid of some tech last week, a little bit. but I don't have near the levels I had like a couple of years ago when everything was kind of going nutty. But when you look at what can happen, like, could I jump back in? Of course, options are very handy that way. Options love a bull market, and buying calls instead of stock can give you a lot of leverage in a market like this. So you never have to miss the boat. You just be careful on how you allocate the money that you want to allocate. That's all. Now, as far as, I think having no upside means we're 48.49. The only thing I see that's 50 points from 4,900. Like, what's to stop the market from doing that? Nothing. However, the Fed is going to try to throw some kind of cold water on things, possibly on January 31st. They're like, why should we bother cutting rates when stocks are at all-time highs? That would be my thing. Or when the government's spending $500 billion a quarter it doesn't have. I think at this point, the Fed is just going to let the bond market work it out. Meaning, like, they're going to charge more money if the government doesn't stop spending. What that could make for some choppy stocks. Recall in the past, huge bull markets have had some huge swings also. In the 90s, 97, 98, we had crazy, everybody thought the world was going to melt and sprung back up like crazy. And then you had an 80% year for the NASDAQ, I believe, in 1999. So these are not unheard of things. They've happened before, especially bouncing from lows like we did last year. So I don't think this is anything that hasn't happened before. Could some of these stocks be getting a little pricey? Probably, but I'm not going to short any of them. Have zero interest in doing that. We're wasting money buying puts on them. So the easy rule here is, again, my strangle rule. Hey, a strategy that worked great for a decade when stocks were just going straight up, and you wanted to have some protection. So if you want to trade options that way, you certainly can learn to do that at Option Pit. But a strangle's option prices that I found very interesting today were like VXX, our what do we call that? Reliably crappy.
I think predictably crappy is the way we've typically referred to it. Yes.
Yes, that is the way we typically. But it could be a great. Sometimes it can be amazing, and it be incredibly volatile. But most of the time, and when I say most, I'm saying 95% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, it just goes to zero because it owns a decaying asset. So I did pick up. I noticed in there in VXX for the next 30 days, the vol's as low as it's been in the last 2 years. Now, that to me, I feel was mispriced. So I bought some strangles and I might buy more. I don't buy everything all at once, but I might buy a little more depending on how the vol goes today. So what I would say on that score is when vol is that low, the trade I like is just long calls in indexes, SPY Q, whatever, and long volatility. So long VXX calls, long VIX calls. It's kind of a funky strangle that way, long and long. But in a market where you have potential parabolic moves, I feel that it works the best. So that's kind of what I just did, or what I have on currently. And we'll see what happens. And I'm done with my diatribe. I think I took up too much time, but I think it's an interesting market opportunity going into this Jan 31. If you're a trader, as an investor, you're like, who cares? I'm an investor. But as a short-term trader, if you're looking for an interesting inflection point, it could happen there on January 31.
So that's your VXX Skullduggery ratio strangles. And this man's never met a strangle he didn't like. And this time, why not buy more of one leg? Why not? Just keep buying. Right now, Don Schlesinger, wherever he is, he's just vomiting.
He's vomiting profusely. Yes.
How dare you recommend buying all this premium, sir? Crazy town out there. Speaking of crazy town, is it a crazy town day from an overall volume and just general index and market perspective? I guess let's find out. Seems like the rally might be running out of a little bit of steam. We shall see right now. We are almost, but pretty much are. It's pretty much exactly 100 points north of where we were this time last week when we were doing this show. Obviously no show on Monday, but where the index was hanging out at the beginning of the week last week. So a lot going on out there. Not as much lighting it up, at least on the VIX options front. 368,000 contracts on the tape. Now, that sounds a little better when I tell you the ADV is around 663. So we are more than halfway to that. So respectable numbers across the board, even if not blowing their doors off. SPY, though, saying, man, look out above for me. 5.4 million contracts on the tape for SPY. The ADV a little bit north of 8, about 8.15 million out there. So SPY on the rampage today. The S saying, you know what, I can keep up to 2.12 million contracts already for the S. I won't do it. I won't bore you, listen. I won't run the top 20 and indeed top 40 check. I think we can assume the top 20 are all expiring today, and pretty much 35 of the top 40 probably expiring today as well. The ADV about 3.25 million out there. Small caps, IWM looking pretty robust as well. Like we said, they are lighting it up out there today. 1.03 million contracts on the tape for small caps. The ADV 1.33 million, and the Qs 2.33 million. The ADV 3.52 million out there. Let's keep on rolling to the most active. Let's see if that is a banger day out there as well. And you know what? It's, again, respectable out there. Let's go out to our top 10. It costs you right now 237,000 contracts to break into the top 10 out there. So that certainly ain't nothing. That gets us to our old friend Mara, Mr. Uncle Mike's favorite, good old Marathon Digital Holdings. Up a quarter today. 1635 is where it's trading right now. But on the last month, man, this thing has been all over the place. Up to nearly 30. Back down, cut pretty much in half to where it is, right around 16 and change out there right now. So this thing has just been all over the place, driven up and down, hither and yon by these rumors and then the actual approvals itself out there in the whole crypto land. By the way, if you want more crypto drama, we got it coming for you a little bit later today. I'll be joined by some fun special guests to break down the markets out there on the crypto rundown. So stay tuned for that. Uncle Mike, you'll be forgiven if you need to be elsewhere during that time. But Mara, number 10, 237,000 contracts on the tape. Number 9, jumping up a bit to 277,000 contracts. We've got good old Softy. Are they the most valuable company on the planet today, or has Apple taken it back? I don't know, because Microsoft is selling off today, off $2.50, trading a little bit north of $396. Market cap 2.94 trillion. So even if they're not the most valuable, they're pretty darn close. And again, good for the number 9 spot out there. Number 8, haven't talked about this one in a little bit. This is good old SoFi. You know, they were on a lot of people's radar back in March of last year, all the contagion fears. Popping pretty hard today, up about 30 cents or about nearly 4%, trading 778 out there right now. Even though over the last month, they have kind of come for this name. It's off about $2 or nearly 20%. So it hasn't been the best month, but they're getting some of that back today, it seems like, out here in SoFi. Good for number 8, 281,000. Number 7, the Amazonians come in early out there today, listeners, on our top 10. If I could type the right symbol in, there we go. Amazon, number 7, 324,000 contracts, 154 and 2/3, off about 2/3 of a buck or nearly 0.5% today. And again, good for 324,000. It's not a heck of a lot going on out there. Number 6, it's PayPal. Don't see them too often. Must mean it's earnings season out there, listeners. They also have a new innovation event that they're tying to their earnings, but it's earnings at the end of the day. 64.40, off about $1.40 today, a little over 2%. And again, good for 372,000. Number 5, this is another one. This was Rock'em Sock'em Robots for like the last quarter of last year with all this AI madness. Kind of fell off our radar a little bit. Now it's back again. It is Palantir. The stock looking pretty robust today as well. Up about $0.75, trading right around $17.50 or nearly 5% to the upside today. So they were languishing for a little bit. They got back down into a 15 handle not too long ago. Back at the beginning of the year, they started the year 1598 actually. So they're up a little bit since then, and a nice little pop today. Good for 487,000 contracts and the number 5 spot. Number 4. It's our old friend, the Fruit Company, 835,000 contracts, up about $2.50, trading right about 194 out there right now. So the market has to be green because Apple is green. That's how it works, listeners. Keeping it in the A tech names, let's go out to number 3, AMD. Man, ever since their unveiling of their AI chip saying, hey, look, don't forget about us. They've been on our top 10 most actives as well. 916,000 contracts for them, number 3 today. They're taking it on the chin today, off about $6, trading 168 and a quarter. So no love for AI today. I guess so. They were downgraded today. So there you go. Apparently they got a little bit too big for their britches. Either way, number 3, 916,000. Right above them, causing no amount of consternation, I'm sure, to the folks at AMD. It's their rival, NVIDIA. 927,000. So a mere 9,000 contracts separating these two blood rivals today, listeners. 598.88 is where NVIDIA is trading, up $4. So they're rallying while their rival is taking it on the chin. Interesting stuff. I'm sure they're popping some bottles over there in NVIDIA land. And number 1, you know what it is by now. It's Tesla, 1.08 million. Trading a little bit shy of 208, off 4 and a quarter, about exactly 2% today. They came for it today. Got as high as 217.80 and is trading almost exactly $10 below that now. So quite the range out there in Tesla. Tesla's been coming under some fire, obviously, of late, price cuts, everything else. All these headlines about have we seen peak demand for EVs, at least right now. So a lot of things weighing on Tesla today and taking over $10 off the top from the highs out there today. In terms of earnings, like we said, we are in it, listeners. Today we have United Airlines, tomorrow Verizon, 3M, Johnson & Johnson, and Netflix. Wednesday, AT&T, some company I never heard of called Tesla, and good old Beamer, a hot one again after decades of seeming insignificance. American Airlines on Thursday, Alaska Airlines, Southwest Airlines, so all your tour of the airlines, and Intel, my old stomping grounds, on Thursday, and Friday, good old American Express. If you want to check out the earnings, move result, all the other fun earnings season reports, listeners, head on over to the website, theoptionsinsider.com. The second, we have updated new reports from our friends over there at ORAS. We'll put them up there for your reading and trading pleasure as we keep on rolling into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, time to get weird, time to get wild, time to get maybe a wee bit whimsical. Let's kick things off. Mr. Rock Lobster, strap in, because we're going back to a segment that has left some smoking wreckage on our Options Oddities show. This is telecom. In particular, we're going out to Ericsson this time. I won't read off the actual name of this company because it is a mouthful of many syllables, listeners. We'll just call it the Americanized version. Ericsson, ticker symbol ERIC, E-R-I-C. Trading 582, off about 6 cents today, so not a banger day for them. On the year, let's see, what's been up in Ericsson? We haven't checked in on Ericsson in a little bit out here, listeners. Yeah, a year ago, it was, actually, it's exactly, it's off a penny on the year as of today. My goodness, a year ago it was 584, and it's trading 583 right now. My goodness, so just a treading water year, even though if you look at it from how low it got in October, it got down to 433. So from that level, it's rallied about $1.50. So from the October lows, you're happy because that was looking pretty rough on the year. So now you're back to unched, even if you have given up the highs. It got up to about 6 1/3. That was back right at the end of the year, right around the 28th or so. So it has given up some of that, about 50 cents from there, but still looking better than it was a few months ago, even if it is literally unched on the year. But it seems like, Mr. Rock Lobster, somebody's feeling their oats again out here in Ericsson, coming in this morning, scooping 4,750 of the Feb 6s. They paid a quarter, lifting the offer. This is a 52 vol for those of you who track such things, listeners. The stock was right here, 583, so no big stock move driving this. But there are earnings tomorrow before the open. So we can find out even by the end of this week, Mr. Rock Lobster, if these calls are good or if they're going to choke on the vine. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on these? And have you recovered from our earlier dalliances in some telecoms like Vodafone, which looks like it's still a piece of crap, and also Verizon, sir? Or can you not even talk about telecom anymore?
You know what? This is like, didn't Elon Musk do the Starlink thing? Isn't that kind of happening?
He does have that, yes.
So is that going to be like telecom from the sky kind of stuff?
I suppose if you believe all the hype videos, maybe.
Yeah, anyway, I thought that was interesting. I guess you don't need, I guess you don't need Ericsson infrastructure stuff anymore, right? Because there was like, what was it? Fujitsu, Ericsson, Nokia, Cisco, I don't know, all those big switching companies, whatever. And then Elon Musk might pull a fast one and say, we don't need them anymore. We just launch a couple satellites because we launch them for nothing. And we give everybody the big smoke show. I can see that happening. But here, Ericsson, like, again, where does money go to die? I think there was one trade out of however many we saw last year. I think maybe earlier the Vodafone calls made some money, like the first go round. But after that, it has been a one-way road to Palookaville.
Yeah, that first chunk, the April 17, some like a year and change, they did really well. Yeah, the rest of them, not so much.
The rest of them, yes, because this is Telefonica minging and you something or other Ericsson, right? Forgive me, European people, for messing up the pronunciation of this. So, yes, 6 calls for a quarter. Again, why would you ever, and I see the volume. Like, you would need something so fantastic. I mean, are they making AI chips? Like, if they're making AI chips, I could see that. But if they're not making AI chips, I can't see it. I can't see this stock ever going anywhere.
Talk about damning it with faint praise, sir. So if you don't have AI, you're not in. You're not buying the upside unless they say those magic 2 letters.
Exactly. No story. There's no story. It's only the old story.
Let's see if we can get the Rock Lobster more fired up. Let's go to one of his favorites. We haven't talked about this one a little bit, too. This is good old PagSeguro Limited, ticker symbol PAGS, P-A-G-S. Obviously, fintech digital payments company out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Trading 12 2/3, up about 6 cents today for good old PAGS. On the year, looking back at the year that was PAGS, it's been a pretty decent year, all things considered. Up nearly 360, or about nearly 40%. It was trading 9 1/3 back in January. It's had some ups and downs since then, though. Got down to about 7 3/4 in April. Then it rallied hard in May, got up to about $12.50. Then for the rest of the year, pretty much until Halloween, they crushed it back down to its low for the year of $6.93. Since Halloween, it has almost doubled from $6.93 back to where it is right now, $12.65. In fact, did it got up to almost $13 beginning of first week of January here. So it has pretty much doubled since Halloween. So another chart where first half of the year, not so great. First 2/3 of the year, really not so great. And then this last few months, a bit of a banger, making up for all kinds of lost time. And it seems like, Mr. Rock Lobster, somebody thinks that that upside elevator is continuing, because somebody coming in this morning scooping 2,684 of the Feb 14s. Again, lifting the offer for 30 cents. This is a 41 vol listener, so fairly frothy for good old PagSeguro. The stock was at a 52-week high of, this was this morning. Did it hit 13 1/4? Hold on a second. Let's make sure these prints. How high did it get today? Yeah, it got up to 1340 today, so it had quite the range today. They bought these calls. Oh, these are already looking rough. They bought these calls, and the stock was 1329. It is now 1264. So, unfortunately, they are failing your first sniff test, Mr. Rock Lobster, and that the stock has been annihilated since they bought these calls. They bought almost the all-time high. Actually, at the time they bought it, it was the 52-week high in the stock. So that's not a good sign. But that said, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on these all-timey high calls in PagSeguro, your favorite?
This is like some of these stocks I never understand. Like, okay, somebody comes, they buy huge volume in these stocks that kind of never move, but they're kind of a BRICS country, so you'd think there would be some growth, but somehow the stocks, like, I have to say though, PAGS is definitely it kind of lit the tape up almost 80% since November. So apparently, being some kind of disruptive provider of financial technology is a good business in Brazil. They're based in the Cayman Islands, but wow, PAGS digital bank account. I don't know. Some kind of digital banking based in the Cayman Islands. There can't be any money laundering or anything going on there. Although, again, I know nothing about this. But apparently somebody likes these calls. Maybe they're late to the party, though. The 14's for 30 cents, but after the huge move, I like this a little more than the Ericsson calls, I have to be honest, because at least this stock has been moving.
Oh, you're liking these. You're liking these bad boys, even though they have been taken to the woodshed since they bought these calls this morning. So we shall see. Did they buy the top in Pag Seguro, or is there more upside love yet to be found? Speaking of upside love, let's get to this last name, listeners. This is the name that's kind of been bereft of love, bereft of upside for decades now. When's the last time we really talked in glowing terms about Xerox, listeners? That's where we're going today. Xerox Holdings Corp, ticker symbol XRX, trading $16.44, up about a third of a buck. On the year, let's see. It's pretty much a wasted year, off 3.5% or 60 cents. They were trading $17 pretty much exactly a year ago. They pretty much all year long crushed it down to its low for the year of about 12 even. That was right around Halloween as well. So since Halloween, they've had a nice recovery. They rallied up to 19 even. They went from 12 even to 19 even from Halloween till December 27th. So $7 of upside in Xerox post-Fed. Who knew? The Fed was such a driver of Xerox flow. And then right back down the other side, listeners, down to 1562. It got to as low as just last week and now rebounding again today. Back up to 1644. So it's been a volatile couple of months out here in Xerox. Mr. Rock Lobster, has the narrative changed in Xerox? Is there all kinds of upside love? Have they whispered the magic letters of AI and everyone's buying Xerox calls now? No. The answer is a resounding no. Someone came in this morning and instead, as you would expect, loaded up on some puts in Xerox, saying this thing's just going to die once again. They bought 2,513 of the June 15 puts, so right around $1.50 out of the money puts. They paid $1 for them, so they weren't giving these bad boys away, even though they do have a fair amount of time to go on these puts. This is about a 43 vol. This was lifting the offer on these bad boys. The stock was a little higher, 1661 when they bought these, so they have that going for them, which is nice. And there also is earnings, obviously, between now and June expiration. The first one's popping off on January 25th. So somebody, Mr. Rock Lobster, locking in a whole half of a year of crappy earnings announcements and everything else from Xerox, sir. So if you're going to get all excited, you thought this was the moment the worm was turning in Xerox, at least according to our paper today, Mr. Rock Lobster, the answer is a resounding no.
It would appear that way. I had no idea that Xerox paid a 6% dividend at current prices.
Ah, now your ears perk up.
I had no idea it was that high. Not even no way, shape, or form. So I find that quite interesting. But as far as this put buyer, kind of curious, to be honest. The stock definitely is up from like 13.5, but it kind of languished there for pretty much. So if they're buying those 15 puts, I would say they need some kind of magic to happen, like something pretty awful. And if, of course, they whisper the magic 2 letters, AI, this put buyer is going to be very sad.
Yeah, then those puts are gone.
Actually, and I'm looking at it right now, the business summary in LiveVol. The company has capabilities in AI.
Oh, here we go.
Reality-driven service experiences.
Who knew we all needed AI copying? That's what we all need.
Yes. You know what the AI copying is? That's when people that go sit on the copy machine, and then take pictures of themselves.
As
the
you walk
AI
up,
identifies.
Yes.
Which fanny
it does the butt copy for you before you even sit on it because it knows you're the butt.
It knows exactly who it is. That's AI at its finest, right there.
That's what all these billions of dollars worth of chips are being developed for AI.
Generally, that's kind of ends up where it all goes anyway. So yeah.
When you think of AI butt copying, you think of but one man, Uncle Mike, pun intended. So let's get to him now. A little bit of the old strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Strategy Block, the portion of the show where we break down, or Uncle Mike breaks down, really, what strategery he is keeping his eye on out there. Mr. Uncle Mike, let's start with the question inquiring minds want to know. How many times have you copied your butt in a copier, and would AI be a benefit to you, or would it take away your beloved hobby?
I gotta be honest, I've never copied my butt my entire life.
I think you are telling us fibs, sir.
No, my butt's very personal. It's between myself and my wife, and that's what we do. So with that being said, moving on, have to say I was not planning on talking about butt copies today. You kind of threw me off a little bit.
That's my goal here. Throw your curveballs every week.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I was not expecting today. And usually you can't throw me off, but the butt copying got to me a little bit, not going to lie. All right. So what I want to talk about today is just the importance of kind of sticking with your plan when covered calls go above you. So in other words, just something that we're experiencing a little bit right now with our triple income portfolio is that the market's going higher than what our strike prices are in a lot of cases with covered calls. And so you have a few choices with this. One choice is that you can chase. So in other words, let's say you get called away at $60 a share and you've been selling calls at the 60 level for a while, and now the stock's at 68. Well, next month it'll take more money, but if you want to sell maybe a 65 call or 67 half call, you can do that, and you will still get income like you were. However, it's going to take more cash to create that. Now, if you've been banking the money that you've been getting from the call premium month in, month out, that's fine. But just have an understanding that by doing that, you will give yourself more downside risk if you are a chaser. Sometimes we chase. That's part of being a covered call person. That's just kind of the way it goes. The other thing with which you can do in chasing, you can chase from a distance. So in that analogy or in that example, if you get called away at $60 per share, and then the next month, you're not quite ready to go at the money at 67 a share, or whatever it is, maybe you can chase from a distance. Maybe you can sell the 65 call while owning the stock, or the 63 call while owning the stock. You won't get quite as much juice as if you went at the money, but it is a way with which you can kind of chase from a distance and still get paid to chase the stock. It's kind of like waiting for a pullback in the stock, but getting paid to wait while doing so. Another way with which you can handle it is to just simply move on. There's nothing wrong with that, meaning that you need to find something else for your stock holding that, you know what, that stock's had its day and it's too far away to sell any more premium on in the lower area. So let's just move on to another stock. So that's another way with which you can handle it. And then the final way that you can handle it, it's like an analogy that I use. It's if you're a wrestler, an amateur wrestler, not professionals. Professionals don't do this move. But the best way to get out of a double chicken wing, if you're an amateur wrestler, no question about it, don't get into it in the first place. And so if you're concerned about the stock going significantly higher, but you want to have some premium sold, you can always sell a call spread on the stock itself. You won't get as much initial premium, but in case the stock does go up significantly, you will be part of the upside. You'll just miss out on one section of the upside instead of all of it. And that is my strategy block for the day.
All right. Thank you for that, sir. And now it is time for us to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, time to go around the block, tell you what we're keeping an eye on, I should say, until the next episode, at least, of the old OB. At the top of the show, we said, looks like the sell-off was mitigating. Seems like we're kind of back to where we were to start the show. VIX right around 13.5, S&P up about 0.25% again. So it looks like net on the show, we are pretty much unched, so anyone's guess as to where we go from here. Speaking of where we're going and what you're up to, how you're trading it, our question of the week just went live during the show, listeners. Another straightforward one to kind of get your sense of where you're standing, what you're trading out here at the beginning of the year. We're asking you very simply, what is your preferred way to trade broad market volatility. Gave you 4 choices: plain old SPX or SPY options, VIX options and futures, the vol ETPs like VXX, or your inverse and levered ETPs like your UVXYs, and all that sort of fun. Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you. If you have a vote, have at it. B, where do you think our audience is voting in terms of how they prefer to trade their broad market vol? And then C, what are you keeping an eye on till the Thursday show?
Me, I like VIX and SPY. Use a combination, but I think the folks are going to just say like good old fashioned index, like SPY puts and stuff like that, SPX puts. And what am I looking at? I think we have a huge week of earnings where everybody's like, oh, we have to get through 4,800. And I think if, a couple of decent tech earnings here, 4,900 will be in the rearview mirror. So that's kind of it's all earnings this week. We got the big biggies are next week, but some good biggies are this week.
Big biggies next week, good biggies this week. So there you go, listeners. Keep an eye on those good biggies coming up this week. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What is your preferred way to trade broad market vol? B, which way do you think our audience is going? And C, what are you keeping an eye on till the Thursday show?
I'm not much of a vol trader, so I'm going to kind of abstain from that. I'll go with our audience. They are doing the VIX, and in terms of things that I'm watching, gosh, it's hard to follow Andrews. Some biggies are next week, but the big biggies are next week, but there are some biggies this week. So I just have to, I don't know how to follow that one. That's possibly the best around the block that we have had in almost 15 years of doing this show. So I'm going to watch that. I can't top that.
Uncle Mike getting thrown for a loop a lot here at the end of the show. By the way, just to clarify, it was the big biggies next week and the good biggies this week. So just to delineate between the different levels of biggies out there for earnings. Listeners, which ones are the big biggies? Which ones are the good biggies? I'll leave that up to you folks to decide. Speaking of you folks deciding right now, 55.6% of you saying you want just to play in the plain old SPX and SPY options. So well over half of you. A third exactly, 33.3%, saying you're going for the inverse or levered route. I got a feeling Mr. VIXologist, who's just on vol views with us, and his UVXY, I should say, Defense Force, going to be raising their flag for that one. VIX options and futures getting a paltry third at 11.1%. And right now, again, just went live a few minutes ago, so this is just the early voting. No love at all. 0 votes for the vol ETPs that the Rock Lobster loves so much, loading up on his strangles and VXX and everything else like that. No love for those straight ones out there. But hey, the day is young. The vote is young. Get on over there to @options to make your voice heard. And if they get on over to Uncle Mike Land, a.k.a. @Mike2Saw on Twitter, or over there at St. Charles Wealth, Mr. Uncle Mike, what can they find? What can they do over there, sir?
They can do a lot of things. Set up an appointment. I'll give you a call. I love talking to our audience members about anything in the option space or whatever we have going on in the investment world. stcharleswealth.com.
And Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, if folks want to chat their preferred vector for vol with you, where should they go? What should they do?
Optionpit.com. I manage 5 products at Option Pit. All are wildly profitable. So if you want to learn how to use this vol stuff and use it to help your short-term trading and improve potentially your long-term investing, come on over to optionpit.com, because we have been doing it for a long time, like 12, 13 years almost.
When you get to
crazy.
When you get to 17.
I can't even like that time. It just freaks me out.
When you get to 17, let me know. Just a babe in the woods.
You're long in the tooth, like Mr.
Just
Longo.
a babe in the woods out there. Yeah, so fun stuff. Hit him up at optionpit.com. Stay tuned for his forthcoming newsletter, The Strangler, where he just tells you about how many strangles he wants to buy this week and in what ratio, because he can't stop buying stranglers. Over there, optionpit.com is the place to go to learn more. Maybe give him a hard time about all his strangle love. If you want a little bit more crypto vol love and analysis in your lives, stay tuned. I'll be back in a little bit with the Crypto Rundown. I'll be joined by Andrew Saunders, the Chief Strategy Officer at Hashflow, joining me in the crypto hot seat this week, so it should be a fun time. Back again throughout the rest of the week with our usual array of content until we're back again on Thursday, Flowmaster in hand for another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.